Welcome to the Wild Physio podcast with your hosts, Andrew Wild and Chaz. How are you, mate?
How you doing? Good to be
Mate,
here.
we're back again. I think this is two podcasts in 10 days. We're flying.
Killing
How about it?
it.
The feedback from the last podcast is great in terms of the strength training principles that we went through. I feel like it was a really good summary of the strength training principles that are super important and felt like it was just sort of straight to the point like I normally am. And the feedback's been great. What have you heard?
Yeah, I mean, yet again, the feedback was great with kind of how conversational it was, kind of bite-sized pieces of every aspect we wanted to go through. But also, yeah, like you said, straight to the point, no bullshitting around, kind of what you need to hear, kind of dissect all that fancy shit that you usually see
Yeah.
on social media as well.
What are your thoughts on the granola tasting?
We have to do it again. Different product, but we'll definitely explore some more stuff.
Yeah, agreed. A few people have said that they actually enjoyed it because they saw it in the supermarket before we tried it on the podcast and they were curious what we thought. So
Mm.
interesting. I actually saw another one today. I was just in Woolworths just before I came back to do this pod, and there's a Harvest Farms, that brand that I mentioned that's quite cheap. They've got a
Yeah.
higher protein one as well. And there was another brand, I forget the name of it. Anyway, there was another brand as well that had protein on it, but they both weren't as high protein as that Kellogg's one.
Mhm.
So yeah.
And if you guys are interested in that type of stuff as well, I can do an Instagram post on comparing like products like granola, whatever it is, bars, muesli bars, etc. If you guys are interested in that, let us know. I can do posts where we kind of dissect it and our choosings and whatnot.
I'll beat them to it and I'll say that I'm keen for you to do that. I reckon
But
that's good. I reckon that the muesli bar one's a good one because a lot of people choose muesli bars based off the packaging and based off the marketing on the packaging. So I think breaking down a few of the common muesli bar options out there and maybe the common granola options out there would be a great idea.
yeah, and even I can talk about price because I know for a fact one of my favorite muesli bars is definitely not the most expensive. And usually, if the marketing's really well and the brand's pretty big, they can just skyrocket the price. But it doesn't mean it's always the best either. So I'll definitely put price as a variable to consider
What
with
what's
these
your
as well.
favorite? What's your favorite muesli bar?
Sam's from
Oh
Woolworth,
yeah, yep.
and they're like cheaper than the Carmen's, like half price. Similar macronutrients, slightly less calorie, which is not really my goal, but I mean the price is like, and the taste and everything's pretty similar. And then there's one from Audi as well. I can't even think of the name of it, which is even cheaper again. So,
I normally get the big value pack,
mm.
Uncle Toby's strawberry like yogurt top ones.
Yes, sweet tooth.
Yeah, it's very old school. Very old school. I feel like I'm a child again every time I eat one of them. But they're quite good in terms of price, but also I like the taste. So, and I'm the
Yeah,
same as you. Like I can eat a fair bit of food, so it's like whatever. We've
yeah.
got so many options there.
Yeah, mate, that's not the worst thing. You eat Weet-Bix Sprites every morning, so
True. I love a wheat big. I love wheat big bites. Get off my back.
like a kid, mate.
Yeah, I know. Fully childlike. Anyway, we've got a new topic today, and the topic is going to be discussed in detail by Chaz, and I'm going to put my 2 cents in as well. And the topic is how to manage hunger.
Hmm.
Chaz, everyone goes through this during their life. People get hungry. We all get hungry. How do you manage hunger? Because it obviously depends if you're in a deficit versus maintenance. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're in a surplus maintenance or a deficit, at some point during the day, you will get hungry. And obviously, how to deal with the hunger is harder if you are in deficit. How does one go about it?
Hmm. Well, that's right. Like everyone gets hungry at some point, and if you're not, you're doing something wrong in terms of your hunger cues are off. Like even me and Andrew eating a lot of food, especially me in a surplus at the moment, I still get hungry regularly throughout the day, and I feel like your body's utilizing the nutrients and you're in a good schedule, stuff like that. It's actually a good sign that you're hungry when you're supposed to be hungry. So I guess controlling it would be when it's kind of out of control in terms of like you're hungry most of the time. You think about food more than you should, things like that. You're like kind of hungry around your snacks and your main meals. And might go to bed hungry, stuff like that. So I guess I kind of want to outline the difference between hunger and actual cravings. So hunger is kind of like a physiological, your body's telling you that you need nutrients, you need energy, which is like a good thing. So it's kind of your body's response for like energy and nutrients. And kind of cravings is like your psychological kind of like, oh, I crave whatever it is, and it's actually not nutrient dense, or it can be nutrient dense, but it's kind of what you're like that. Usually, a sweet treat or something like that, and it's not really something you require, and it's usually like linked with emotion or environment or like some sort of restriction potentially. So I guess what causes hunger? So I'd say the main things are like dropping glucose, so your body's like regulating. Okay, I actually need more fuel here. Hormones like ghrelin, so it's like your signals your hunger. So if that's regulated well, when you're like, the ghrelin will be secreted when you're kind of low on that blood sugar. It's like a cycle around. Okay, I need to eat lunch. It's been a couple hours, whatever it is, and I actually need lunch now. And guess like things like sleep deprivation, stuff like that can actually increase your appetite hormones as well. And in a stressed environment as well, like you just crave, I don't know if you've had this, Andrew, but if you're going, I don't know, working hard days and you limit your sleep or even you go out on the weekend, have a couple beers, the next day you're probably going to be craving some terrible food, even unrelated to the alcohol that you might have consumed. So that definitely plays a part as well of hunger. And then I guess cravings can happen when like there's off-limit foods. So things you're kind of restricting because you feel like they're bad or good. Emotional triggers, like I said. So maybe you have boredom. So if you're on a boring day, your day off, and you're like, oh, what am I doing? Stress, so like work related, whatever it is. And then sadness can actually be a part, or like the depressive thoughts can actually, you can't, might rely on those foods that make you kind of comfortable. Could happen from cravings. And then also we kind of spoke about a couple of podcasts ago is palatable foods. So like usually they're ultra processed foods that are designed perfectly with the sweet amount of fat, sugar, saltiness to really get that dopamine rush. And you're like, wow, I really crave that. And you kind of notice some, like most people, after you have a big dinner at night and you have all those nutrients and you're not hungry anymore, but you still crave that chocolate, but you never really crave the apple because the apple's like nutrient dense, has fiber. It doesn't get that dopamine spike like the chocolate would. So you can kind of ask yourself, do I actually crave like an apple or something more nutrient dense, less of that dopamine hit, or do I just crave something sweet because I'm craving it, you know?
Yeah,
That
and with the sleep side of things as well, there was that great study by Neda Velcher, I think it was in 2014, and it was 8.5 hours versus 5.5 hours in terms of the amount of sleep the two groups got. And the 5.5 hour group, they were both in a deficit, and the 5.5 hour group lost considerably more muscle mass comparatively to fat than the 8.5 hour group. And potentially one of the mechanisms there is that increase in ghrelin.
Mhm.
And there is a correlation there between the lack of sleep and increased ghrelin, which is that hunger hormone.
Yeah, definitely. And it's catabolic when you're not getting enough sleep and it lowers your testosterone, your estrogen. Like it's not like it's terrible for you, and sleep should definitely be a priority if your goal is weight loss or regulating your appetite. And
Yeah, absolutely.
so I guess generally with people that kind of have uncontrolled hunger or it's a bit more on the side of I'm hungry most of the day, it's not really regulated. It usually is drawn to weight loss. So usually it's people that I don't want to say majority, but I don't want to say for everyone, but majority of people like are usually your goal is weight loss or some sort of deficit, and that's kind of calling the uncontrolled hunger. So when it comes to weight loss, when your body is in a calorie deficit, your body doesn't even know it's deliberate. Your body doesn't know, oh, you're doing this on purpose, like your goal is weight loss. It's like, no, we're in starvation mode, really. We're losing energy stores. So the body's naturally telling it, no, we need more energy, and the hunger's going to come from that. And I think setting the realistic expectation that like you got to be hungry no matter what if your goal is weight loss. It's just kind of ways to manage it better. And I think you got to embrace the feeling of hunger, not like a deep, deep sense of hunger, but you're going to embrace some sort of level of hunger if your goal is weight loss over time. So I guess kind of reframing that mind, these strategies aren't going to make you satiated and well full all the time, especially after a long period of a weight loss journey. And I guess also talking about the importance of diet breaks. So if your goal yet again is weight loss, you can't be in a deficit forever. Like your body will ever adapt to it, and you're just gonna be hungry all the time, but you're actually not losing weight either because your body adapts. You're kind of in a low energy state. Like you're probably moving less around the day and stuff like that. You're less energetic and stuff like that as well. So learning how to fuel your body adequately in times with maintenance. So either having times throughout the year where, okay, I'm going to increase my calories to maintenance or a slight surplus. I'm actually going to really focus on on strength or whatever your goals are. I'm going to perform better in tennis during this time. I might do a bit more activity. And you're really learning to like, okay, I can actually feel my body for this and not have to feel like kind of scared about like, oh, I can't eat more because I'm not losing weight now. If I gain it, I'm going to gain all this weight. You really, your goal should be, okay, I'm really going to control this hunger and I'm going to make it so I'm actually going to really feel full performance or whatever your goals are. Like feel performance at work, cognition, stuff like that. Having this higher energy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. An analogy I sometimes use is it's like steps. So you're going, as you're losing weight, you're obviously going down the steps and down the steps to the point where you're happy with the weight that the amount of weight that you've lost, and you've gotten to that weight that's optimal for you. And there's nothing wrong with staying on a step for a while and
Hmm.
maintaining, and then you drop again to try and get to that next weight goal, which may be another kilo or two.
Yeah.
So not being in a massive rush, and I think that's important as well, is a lot of people gradually put weight on over a period of time. They may take 5, 10 years to put on X amount of weight, and then they're in this massive rush to lose
Hmm.
the weight. So it's important to make sure that we're realistic with how much weight you should be losing per week or per month or per 6 months,
Yeah.
and having realistic goals around that is imperative.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess doing it properly, you're gonna like you can kind of do a good take on a couple kilos weight loss, whatever it is, percentage of your body weight. You can do it definitely through these examples we'll provide. But if you really want to do it long term and be successful, it is good to have some sort of help with you, whether it be a PT, nutritionist, dietitian, physio. Like obviously food related, people or nutrition, dietetics, but physio for training, performance, stuff like that as well. And like you really want to, like you said, minimal effective dose. We spoke about that last podcast. You don't want to drop like 1,000 calories from your maintenance because like I'm going to lose weight so quickly. Number one, your training's going to suffer, or whatever it is, your performance at work and stuff like that's going to suffer. Your hunger's going to go through the roof, which is kind of like the aspect we're talking about today. But you're just going to feel terrible, and there's no way, like you're going down so far, and when you want to decrease again, where do you go? Because you're already eating no food. So that's when it's actually important to kind of go up a step potentially, and
Yep.
then your body will adapt and go, okay, like we're actually getting a bit more nutrients in, and that's when your goal should be, okay, let's really focus and control this hunger. So then you can kind of continue to try and get that weight loss down. If that makes
Absolutely. And even for me, I think over the years, I've been someone that gets hungry a lot, and I'll eat regularly throughout the day. And I probably prefer to sort of nibble on things throughout the day and have a lot of snacks and have a lot of meals rather than having big meals.
Mhm.
That's just been my preference over the years. But I think when I was younger, when I didn't really know that much about obviously the strength and conditioning side of things, physio, nutrition, all that, I kind of assumed that if I wasn't eating regularly, that was going to be counterproductive for my gains. And
Mhm.
it was like, if you're hungry and hungry regularly, well, you need to get more food and more protein in all the time. But over time, I realized, based off the knowledge I had, that it doesn't correlate. Like in terms of meal frequency, if calories and protein are equated, it doesn't seem to really matter. But when we're looking at protein, ideally you're getting 3 to 4 feedings over the day to spread out your protein optimally. But I think that's something that is important for young guys or girls that are trying to bulk, and you could be older and still bulk. But as you're bulking, just because you're hungry doesn't mean that you're losing muscle.
Mhm.
I think there's that notion that that is happening. Oh my God, I should eat because I'm hungry. I've got
Yeah.
to eat. I'm gonna get smaller.
Yeah. And we can talk about that on another podcast, ways to kind of help with appetite regulation in terms of like if you're struggling to gain weight, we can do a whole thing on a good bulking phase without like gaining too much adipose tissue. And your goal is in a bulking phase, maximal amount of muscle gain without the minimal amount of fat gain.
Yep.
So we'll kind of go into more detail of that later on. But I guess I can kind of go through some strategies that I've used with clients currently and in the past that really work, and also kind of outline like this isn't just for weight loss. This is just for if you know you're at maintenance or in a surplus and you're still just hungry all the time. Yeah, like you said, if you're even if you're in a surplus, you don't want to go crazy with the calories and go 1,000 calories above. Same as a deficit, you don't want to go 1,000 calories low. It's like a small step and go above. So these strategies can be implemented even if you're in a surplus, but obviously majority or more often it's in a deficit. So I'd say number one, protein intake, like you mentioned. I guess like you said, 3 to 4 meals throughout the day is probably optimal, but I'd say even 2 to 3 is okay, as long as you. Sorry, you go.
I think the big thing with that is it depends on the person as well and how much they're training and how pedantic they are with where they're going with their aesthetic goals. So for general population, I feel like they're having 2 meals a day of a decent amount of protein. If protein and calories are equated, 2 versus 3, it's a much of a muchness. But if someone's
Mm,
trying to optimize it for aesthetic goals and sport and other performance goals, I think, splitting it over the 3 to 4 based off the research we have seems like it's the most effective.
agreed. Agreed. Yeah, I'd say 3 to 4. I'd probably go for 4, even 5 if you can. But then
Yep.
anything above 5 is really diminishing return for that. So yeah, that's kind of getting enough protein intake to kind of meet your goals. I'd say 1.6 grams per kilo is kind of a good rule of thumb, I think, for most people. Obviously, the leaner and bigger you are, you could probably go above up to like 2 grams per kilo. But for general population, because we're not just as lean and got as much lean tissue, that like the lean tissue is what requires the protein intake. 1.6 is a pretty good rule of thumb, and that's even the upper range that you do clinically in a hospital.
Yep.
So protein intake, examples would be like Greek yogurt, eggs, lean meats, tofu, protein shakes, stuff like that. And then also next one would be like fiber-rich foods. I'm sure everyone knows what foods contain fiber, but obviously like oats, lentils, veggies, the fruit, the skin on the fruit, stuff like that. The general rule of thumb for girls would be 25 grams per day or 30 grams for males, but you can kind of range around from. I think a good rule of thumb would just kind of focusing on having fiber at most meals and a good portion of it. So if it be there's some fruit, some veggies, having whole grain carbohydrates, i.e. brown rice, brown pasta, stuff like that is definitely gonna, and even bread, wholemeal bread, multigrain bread's gonna be better than white for being filling. So it's another thing to kind of tick off, I guess, protein, fiber, and then a lot of people I see, especially clients in a weight loss phase, they just like kind of remove fat intake completely. Like no fats, like it's kind of lower volume. It is most calorie dense, 9 calories per gram compared to carbohydrates and fats being 4 calories per gram. So it is much more calorie dense comparative. So it's more
Charlie,
dense.
Charlie meant carbohydrates and protein then. You said
Oh, did
fats.
I? My
Yeah.
bad.
Calories
Um,
and protein, four calories per gram. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So obviously fat is more calorie dense per gram. However, that it also helps with appetite regulation, slows gastric emptying as well, delays it, adds more flavor to your meals also, and kind of helps with the hunger cues a lot. Obviously aiming for mainly healthy fats, i.e. olive oil, nuts, avocados, but also you can have leaner mints, like beef mints, stuff like that. Yes, it's saturated, but I'd say I still have red mints most days and it's definitely more a filling than I would, let's say, a super lean cut of fish or chicken breast. So counting that in the regular meals, and this is all given. These are all kind of should be contained in each meal, 3 to 4 meals per day. Obviously, if you're restricted or you're not hungry in the mornings, I don't think for someone that's not hungry in the mornings but struggles with appetite in the afternoon, obviously don't force feed yourself in the mornings. Kind of eat when you start feeling hungry if your goal is kind of to regulate appetite and potentially weight loss.
Yep.
I also wouldn't recommend, when kind of going into more detail on this, don't like backfill your day. So, example, don't try and fast all day at work. And then you're like, oh my God, I'm just ravenous by the time I finish work. And now I have all this food to have at one time. Because that can just really throw off like kind of the emotional way, like just kind of like the balance of eating throughout the day. And when things going, like when variables change, example, you're not at work and you're like, what am I doing all day? And all you're doing is thinking about food. It kind of ruins the whole purpose of trying to regulate your appetite, if that makes sense. Next one would be hydration. So being dehydrated can actually be mistaken for hunger a lot. So focusing on adequate hydration throughout the day and even before meals, have a big glass of water, then eat your meal. Easy thing to do. And also other benefits, obviously, with hydration, other than just kind of regulating your appetite.
Goes against a lot of the information that you'd been fed by your parents when you were younger, when they were like, don't drink during a meal or whatever, because you're
Mm,
going to ruin your meal.
yeah, yeah. No, it's gonna help help
Yeah.
dramatically with the meal digestion, everything. It's gonna, yeah, definitely something to consider. And then I'd say volume eating, but like this is a blurry area here. So I can't define volume eating first. So using low calorie, high volume foods, example, veggies, soups, berries, like anything that's kind of a lot of volume, lower calorie. Even potatoes is really filling, got the fiber. It's pretty lower calorie compared to any other carbohydrates, example, rice. But I would emphasize a balance on this and not relying on just volume in every single meal. Like just
Yeah.
actually like focusing, okay, how on earth am I going to make this the most voluminous meal? Having like 2 kilos of lettuce and then having a little bit of sauce and a little bit of meat. Like it's over the top, and you really want to control this because you want to kind of utilize it as a tool when you're
Mm,
like, oh my, like maybe the end of a dieting phase, like, oh my God, like the appetite's kind of going through the roof. Then you kind of utilize that more, having those lots more berries and less carbohydrate dense fruits, example, bananas. So having berries instead of bananas, having potato instead of rice. Those things will just add more volume and you spend more time eating and there's more volume in your stomach. Those things can be great. And even having like sugar-free like soft drinks and stuff like that. You're still having that flavor, that volume to your stomach. Even the carbonation can help with being filled up. But you don't want to go balls to the wall from the start because it's the same as like dropping your calories too low. There's nowhere to increase that if you're already at the max in terms of volume. You're just kind of shoving down lettuce and hope you're trying to seek that feeling of being full. And it goes also back to the point of you got to embrace some sort of hunger during a weight loss phase, and you can't just try and seek these high volume foods all the time to kind of get that satisfaction, I guess. So,
I think the other problem with the high volume food is if you did that all the time and you have to eat a lot of calories like I do, or someone that's bigger than me, right? Like all of a sudden your fiber intake would probably go through the roof and you'd
yeah,
feel absolutely terrible.
yeah, yeah. And like if you break down the components I'm talking about generally, there are higher fiber, even higher volume of water in those products. So it's kind of like breaking down the components I've spoken about before, but it's in the food.
Yeah.
So like even if you had a whole potato and you boiled it, it's going to stay pretty well the same size when you cook it. But you chuck it in the air fryer, it's going to shrink right down, and you could eat it way easier. So even those strategies of like how you cook the food and stuff like that, kind of still have that volume and not really shrinking it down, can actually help with those things as well. And then kind of like mindful eating and understanding hunger cues. So this probably deserves its own podcast in itself. And like I said, I'm going to go through on Instagram. I'm going to do a lot of posts on kind of this whole aspect of hunger, and I go into key components in each post. And I want you guys to ask questions in the comments, like what interests you, what kind of things I can go into more detail in for these things. So this is kind of going an overview and kind of general outlining things, and we can go into more detail in the future on Instagram. So mindful eating and hunger cues, kind of learning the difference between hunger and like feeling like eating and those like the cravings, like the difference. Actually, do I feel like chocolate or could I eat an apple or what, like whatever it is, like, and also having chocolate's fine. I don't want people to cut out that stuff. But it's kind of asking yourself, like, if my weight loss is main goal for me, do I have that half a block of chocolate or do I maybe have a couple of squares, whatever it is.
Or just not buying the big block of chocolate and having like a Freddo at home or something like that, because gonna kind of hack human psychology here. If you only have a small Freddo as opposed to a whole block, well, you can't eat any more unless you go and get more. And
Yeah, yeah.
humans are typically lazy, and we're not going to go up to the shop, are we?
Hmm.
If we just can just eat that Freddo, and all of a sudden we're satiated by that, and we feel like we've ticked it off in terms of that little dopamine hit that we're going to get from it.
Yeah. So pre-packaged foods is so useful for this.
Mm.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great point. And then like moderation matters obviously as well. So kind of emphasizing balance, like we spoke about the pre-portioning snacks like that. Still enjoying meals out with family and friends. Obviously, just kind of maybe choose a entree or maybe share it something with a friend. Or you don't want to restrict yourself from going out anyway because you're just gonna want it more. When you can't have something, you just want it so much more. So kind of making the smart decisions when you're going out or whatever it is. I guess, do you have any questions so far with that one, Andrew, or you still pretty good?
No, not really. I think it'd be good now to potentially go through some of the tools and little tips that you've got that you use for
Hmm.
when you are hungry, and I've got some up my sleeve as well.
Mm. So, I mean, right now I'm in a kind of a surplus phase, a bulking phase, if you will, and it's only a slight surplus, so not much above my maintenance. So I still get hungry. If not, sometimes I'm hungrier now than I am before. I
Yeah.
think eating more frequently for me, kind of like I'm like
Mm.
training's really intense right now and actually really great. And the feeling of hunger kind of lets me know like my body's using this. Like my body's like a furnace right now, and I'm not like I feel like I'm getting more muscular and full without all the softer and holding like water and stuff like that. So I guess things that I do for hunger cues, I eat, and like this is what works for me. Everyone's different. I want to emphasize
Yep.
that as well.
Yeah,
I eat
100%.
generally similar times each day in terms of the timing for my breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and my snacks are in the similar time. And your body kind of knows, like once you on a consistent schedule of that stuff, like your body kind of tells you when you're hungry next, and it's around the same time you ate yesterday. If you think about if one day you obviously life happens and work's busy and you don't have time to eat or whatever it is. But if you had all your calories at the start of the day, one day, and you had like a small dinner, the next day you might like obviously be starving in the morning. So you're naturally going to be wanting it more in the morning. But if you're busy in the morning and you go to the end of day, you're going to be just way hungrier. And like, it's just not the best way of doing things. Like, you really want to balance it out. Obviously, everyone's different and schedules are different. Some people like I said, aren't hungry in the mornings. They can kind of wait until 11 o'clock and start eating. That's fine. So it's one thing I do. Eat to the clock works with me very well. Adding like those high volume foods to most of my meals. So having veggies with my stir fry meal at lunch, having rice still because I need carbohydrates for training. They are lower dense because I'm really not really emphasizing on weight loss right now. If I wanted to, I could swap to potatoes instead of rice, have way more volume, and probably have a little bit less other veg. But I have just frozen veg with my rice, have like a leaner cut of meat, but still got some healthy fats in there. And then my snacks throughout there, I just kind of like always make sure I have some healthy snacks on me. And it's not, well, if I'm hungry at work and I've got no healthy snack on me, I'm not going to the canteen or the vending machine and grabbing a pack of chips.
Yeah, absolutely. Any
Yeah.
other little tips?
Hydration. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a very intentional one with appetite regulation, but for cognition, performance, hydration is kind of a good thing for everything. But that's definitely one I have like 4 liters a day. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I think big one for me is I find, and you mentioned it before, like when you're busy and you're on your feet and moving around and you're thinking about something else, all of a sudden you don't think about the hunger. So I feel like that's a big one. And going for a walk is often a little tool that I've used over the years, and other little ones that just seem to work. Chewing gum.
hmm
Such a simple one. I find that chewing gum, just having something in my mouth and chewing that away, like even in the car, if you've got some snacks and you know you got a 5 hour trip or something like that, and you've got the snacks in the car, so don't just smash them all at the start of the trip. Chewing gum has worked for me in the past.
hmm
0 calorie diet drinks, Coke, no sugar,
Yep.
that type of thing has worked as well. And there's obviously 0 calorie cordials as well. Caffeine in the morning, especially.
hmm
I'm pretty pedantic with not having caffeine after 12 o'clock because I feel like it affects my sleep.
hmm
So there are other little things that I've used over the years. Back to the sort of time restricted feeding side of things and like keeping calories up your sleeve, because I do have one friend at the moment that is doing that where they're doing time restricted feeding. And for the listeners out there, time restricted feeding is often termed in, say, articles in the media, intermittent fasting. And really all it is just reducing your feeding window.
Sure.
And he's reducing his feeding window by not eating in the morning.
hmm
And look, seems to be working for him. He's okay with it. You
Yep.
said that sometimes it can be a really negative thing for someone's fat loss because they do get to the point where they're just so hungry later on that they eat a lot and they may binge.
Yep. Yep.
What is the recommendation typically now going forward based off the research around time restricted feeding? And is there a best way to do time restricted feeding?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I want to debunk there's no like autophagy, all those things that are regenerating dead cells. It's all bullshit. It's nothing crazy with fasting and that happening. It happens in a deficit. It happens at
Exactly.
a higher rate in the mornings because you're not eating anything, and it decreases when you eat all your calories. If you're in a deficit throughout the day, it's just going to happen at a steady rate. It's the same outcome. end of the
So
day.
your cellular cleanup is happening based off the deficit, not because you're intermittent fasting.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, okay.
And all those other things that you might have heard. There's no secret to fasting other than it's just like shrinking your eating window. So it might help with appetite regulation because mentally, like if you're not hungry in the morning, just don't eat when when you're not hungry. However, I think, like you said, it can get a bit iffy if you're really pushing it to after work or really late. Like I'm starving, and like that's just kind of ruining the regulation of like not getting to the point where you're just starving because it kind of like that never usually happens in a normal day unless you're forcing it to happen. So I guess the recommendations would be kind of even like calorie delay. So you can kind of, if you still notice you're a bit hungry in the morning still, you can kind of have like a lower calorie brekkie, whatever that be, like maybe some porridge or like something that's kind of still higher volume, and they're kind of still not crazy in the high in calories. Obviously, everyone's calories needs are different, so it's kind of percentage to what your intake is. And then you're kind of delaying the high calorie intake for those high calorie meals at the end of the day. Maybe your dinners are really like the biggest meal of the day. It's got like all the health, like much more healthier fats. It's got all those like extra protein, stuff like that. You're really focusing on a real hearty meal at dinner. So you're not restricting the time. Obviously, you're still eating like a maybe small brekkie, if you're still hungry, but you're still kind of saving those calories a little bit for the afternoon or the dinner. And that's going to help with just kind of going to bed full, satiated. You might still wake up pretty high energy and stuff from this beautiful meal we had the night before. And then you still get to enjoy a kind of a smaller brekkie in the morning. And that's a perfect example of kind of regulating and the importance of timing with the meals as well. So I'd say it's the
S-
best thing to do.
Yeah, so a smaller meal at some point during the day to leave calories up your sleeve for another meal. And
Mhm.
I suppose you could do that as well with lunch and have a bigger breakfast, smaller lunch, bigger dinner.
Yep,
Doesn't
absolutely.
matter, does it?
So whatever works, and you kind
Yeah,
of goes back to kind of controlling the appetite. So if you notice you're hungriest in the mornings, have a big meal in the mornings. Like it's, and
yeah.
then you notice like that big meal is going to carry over, and you can have like a small, maybe just have a couple snacks at work, like to kind of keep that kind of edge off, not getting too hungry. And then after dinner, after gym, whatever it is, sorry, after work or gym, whatever it is, you have this beautiful hearty meal as well. Um, that's probably the best way of explaining it. Like it's not you're not restricting yourself to a 6 hour window, but you're also not like making yourself have the perfect amount of calories. It's all perfectly evened out. You can kind of really work what's best for your hunger and your schedule and all
And
those
you
things.
don't have to suffer as much.
No.
I think that's another thing because there's a little bit of a badge of honor with this as well. It's like, oh, I'm fasting.
Mm.
I'm not eating until 11, 12 o'clock, and there's a high correlation between people fasting and people telling you that they're fasting and wanting to tell you.
Yeah,
Don't you think? Like,
yeah, absolutely. I think
and
everyone's a
it's like this
bad
badge of
diet.
honor. Oh, good on you. Amazing. Well done. You're fasting. You must be suffering. Good on you for what you're doing. But then you're like, well, there's actually ways to do this without suffering.
Hmm. Yeah, there is, and that's kind of outlining those is really important and kind of those strategies to use with clients is going to make it way more successful long term. And that kind of goes back to like what actually is sustainable. Do you see yourself eating a 6 hour window every single day and going
Exactly.
out to going out for brekkie? Like, no, I can't have anything. I'm fasting, so I have a black coffee. Like, it's just not sustainable long term. And I guess actually what you mentioned with the coffee thing, using caffeine can actually be a great tool in those mornings. If you're not super duper hungry, you could actually just have a coffee of some sort. Obviously, you don't go for like a large mocha with full cream milk and extra sugar. Like that's just it's like a meal there. Definitely not satiating or filling. But having like a black coffee or a dash of milk or even using skim milk, almond milk, and utilizing that caffeine can actually suppress your appetite and it'll also help with cognition, focus, stuff like that. So obviously not overdoing it and having 6 coffees in the morning just to kind of avoid hunger, but you can definitely use those tools as well in your toolbox.
Agreed. And just coming to terms with the fact that you get hungry and it's normal is
Mm-hmm.
so important.
Yeah.
And you got
Not
to
having
deal
that
with it,
fear.
right? Like we all get hungry, and I've over the years I feel like I've been too eager to eat something if I do get hungry because I'm like, oh my God, I'm hungry, I need to eat something. But if you kind of like push yourself through that period, or personally it happens for me, if I just like suck it up, like get on with it, mate, you'll be right. And
Mm-hmm.
then after a while, I'm not as hungry or hungry at all.
Hmm.
So I feel like that's important. You don't have to always eat as soon as you feel hungry.
Hmm. Absolutely. Like it goes back to like maybe have some water first, maybe
Yeah.
have a coffee if it's not past super duper late. Maybe have a coffee and actually I'm not actually that hungry. I can wait another couple of hours or an hour and have dinner, have lunch or whatever it is. And it kind of goes back to the mindful part of like, okay, I have some sort of little bit of appetite right now, but is it really like that strong right now? Can I embrace this? Can I kind of utilize this for like a bit more focus? Because I don't know about you, but I'm actually well focused if I'm a little hungry.
Yeah, it's a
Super
good
full.
point. Yeah.
And that can maybe actually use and just kind of embracing that feeling. It's just gonna happen and it's normal. And
Yeah.
like there's people with busy jobs and they kind of only eat when they can. And like they're not waiting around for a hunger cue then to eat. Like it's kind of I think the increase working at home and having your own schedule and having food around you definitely impacts that as well, for sure.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think another thing is as well about that volume thing, and a good example of the volume is drinking juice versus eating fruit.
Hmm.
You can smash a heap of juice really quickly, and drinking calories is really a fast way to increase how many calories you consume as opposed to actually
Yeah.
eating the fruit or whatever it is, because
Yeah.
juice is so easy to smash. And we touched on that a couple of podcasts ago. I personally don't really like juice, and I don't really see the point of drinking juice when it increases my calories considerably, and I don't really enjoy it that much. I'd rather eat the fruit and keep my, calories up my sleeve for other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and just fluids in general, having calories from fluids are going to be way less filling. You're
Yeah.
not actually cutting anything. It's usually quicker to have. That goes back to the mindful part, eating slowly, having a glass of water with next to you, it's no calories, or a sugar-free beverage, whatever it is. Having a sip of water, then having a bite, actually thinking about like, taking time with it, enjoy the food, enjoy the preparation of cooking, cleaning up after, stuff like that kind of regulates, okay, let this digest. Let me actually help like secrete that hunger hormone. Let's actually sorry, stop the hunger hormone.
Yeah.
And kind of like that's kind of the intuitive eating part of things, kind of like enjoying your food. And if you're just buying a juice, like you can finish it seconds. And it's like the sugar, like especially if you get a large juice, it's a sugar of like 4 or 5 apples, or
Yeah.
it's good like trying to smash down 5 apples in 2 minutes. So you can do it with
Yeah.
juice too. And it's the same with like full cream milk. Obviously, it's nutrient dense, full of calcium, got some protein, healthy fats. Yes, it's nutrient dense, but boy, you could smash the full cream milk and like super heaps of calories. Like comparing that to, or even skim milk, a good alternative, or having a high protein yogurt, you're still getting those nutrients, the protein, calcium, but you're eating something generally a bit more high protein also. So all those tools kind of relate back as well. And it kind of goes back to volume eating also. Like it's kind of you're having more volume, I guess, in terms of like the yogurt that compared to like the milk as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Now, after talking about food for the last 45 minutes, I'm hungry. So I think it might be time to wrap things up. I need to go and consume something, mate. I trained about a couple of hours ago, and it's time for me to have a shake.
good man, good man. Drinking calories, saying exactly what I not said not to do.
Yeah, but I need the calories, mate. I need them quick. I need to eat so much bloody food. This is the
Yeah,
thing as well. Like we'll touch on this in another podcast about sort of how to bulk up or something like that. That's a podcast in itself. But or someone that just has to eat a lot of food. It's an easy way to increase your calories, and I don't have to be there all day sort of cutting food up and eating it, calories in quickly via some liquids, away we go.
yeah, yeah, and kind of emphasizes these tools are not for everyone. Obviously, if you're
Yes.
already struggling with appetite regulation, you're always full. I'd suggest not probably going for the high volume stuff. Obviously, still try and aim for a good amount of fiber and nutrients, stuff like that, healthy fats.
Yeah.
But using those opposite tools. So really the opposite, kind of drinking your calories, having smaller volume. But we'll go into more detail with that in a podcast coming soon.
Okay, sounds good. And I think another topic that we do need to discuss is artificial sweeteners and aspartame,
Yep.
because that is something you and I use a fair bit for appetite regulation and for hunger, and we've mentioned it several times. And no doubt people have heard online something about artificial sweeteners that may or may not be correct. And you've broken it down several times on the Instagram, and we've talked about it a little bit on the pod before. But I think that deserves a podcast in itself because, based off the body of research that we have, aspartame and no sugar drinks are safe in moderation.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we can definitely go into more detail on that, debunk some stuff. Like I said, anyone have any other ideas of concepts or things you want to talk about on the podcast, we can definitely get some feedback and yeah,
Yeah,
go
great. No, that was a really good topic and something that everyone deals with. So I think they'll get a lot of value from it. And we'll come back in the next couple of weeks and touch on another subject, and maybe we'll go into a physio related or S&C topic next time.
That's good.
Sweet. All right.
Thanks for having
As
me.
usual, stay strong.